Hello and welcome to One Cool Thing, PC Mag's daily show on Facebook where we show you one cool thing which we are testing out in the PC Mag labs. Today is actually Friday. Yes, it is indeed Friday. I am Sasha Segan. This is Jim Fisher. We have Social Pete taking your comments, cameras, and questions. And in fact, we do have cameras here. We have cameras that are so hot that we are not done with the review yet, but we had to show them to you. And we would love to hear what you have to think about them and what you want to know about cameras, phones, tablets, maybe PCs, although we're not the PC guys, but we can try or maybe get somebody from over there to talk about PCs. In any case, what do we have here that is super hot?
The Nikon D850, which has just started shipping this week.
Whoa.
We got one of the first units. If you pre-ordered it, you might get it this week. If you pre-ordered it too late, they're back-ordered. They sold out of the pre-orders, so some pre-orders are going to be coming in weeks and months, and hopefully they'll catch up. But yeah, this is brand new.
Okay, now why is this such a meaningful camera in Nikon's lineup? Why have people been waiting for this so long?
This is the update to this guy, which is the D810. This came out in 2014. This is Nikon's pro body that's not its high-end sports body. It's a high-resolution camera. This is 36. The new one is 45.7 megapixels. That's one of the big upgrades is a new sensor. The new sensor is backlit CMOS BSI design. So in theory, we haven't tested it yet because I just got it this morning. We haven't tested it yet, but it should be better at high ISO. Plus, it has a pretty incredible low ISO range down to ISO 64 native and an extended low of 32.
So now this surprises me a little because the sensors, are the sensors the same size?
Yes, they're both full-frame sensors.
So you're increasing the number of megapixels on the same size sensor, which presumably means reducing the size of the pixels and yet still getting better low light performance.
I don't know offhand if this is a gapless design. I need to talk to some Nikon guys about that. But this other BSI sensors we've seen have had actually larger photo sites that are closer together. So yes, you're increasing the size, the pixel count, but you're not dramatically increasing or decreasing the size of the pixels.
So it's almost like you're reducing the bezel around the
pixels.
Yeah.
That's a very good analogy. And the BSI design also puts things in a different order on the layers. Like there's less room for the light to pass through to get to the photo sensors. So that also helps with high ISO.
Okay, so now, so the sensor, that is one of the major changes here.
Yep.
What other changes or new features do we have, especially to reflect like the difference between what people were expecting in a 2013 camera and a 2017 camera?
Well, we'll start right here. The old guy's got a pop-up flash. This one does not. Pro shooters typically don't use this to actually as a flash, but what you can do is you can use a pop-up flash to command off-camera flash. So what if I just did there is this doesn't add any illumination to the scene in this mode. This is adding illumination. You can put this anywhere off-camera within line of sight. Nikon, if you put this guy on top of here in the hot shoe and have others around there, you can control it that way. There's also an adapter that plugs into this spot now for radio control of compatible flashes. Right now, Nikon's only option is this guy, the SB5000, which is like a $600 strobe.
Okay.
If you're a studio shooter, things are completely different because you have studio lights and you'll either go in through your PC sync socket with a wire connection or you'll have a little wireless transmitter that goes on the top there.
Now, is studio the primary use case for a camera like this? Because you said it's not the high-end sports camera, so that says to me, you're not doing a lot of, it's not about outdoor fast motion.
Well, yes and no. This was a 5 frames per second camera. This will do 7 frames per second, or if you add a vertical shooting grip, 9. So that only puts it 3 frames below the high-end, the D5, which is a 12 frame per second camera. And it has the same autofocus system, 153 points, widespread, very capable as a sports camera. But traditionally, that say that people buying this camera at 5 frames a second, that's a little slow to shoot sports and wildlife. You can do it. You just miss some. You don't get as many shots, many grabs. Wedding shooters, event shooters, portraits, studios, product photography. Really well-heeled amateur enthusiasts.
Now, how about video? Like, does this shoot 4K video?
It does. 4K video with the full frame width. So you're cropping down, it's a 3:2 sensor aspect ratio, so you do crop down to 16:9, you lose the top and the bottom a little bit, but you're using the full width of the sensor.
Okay.
This is a 1080p camera. Nikon's other two cameras that do 4K, the D5, which is full frame, and the D500, which is crop sensor, they both have an additional crop for 4K. So this is the first Nikon model that will do full frame with 4K.
And now, of course, these use the same lenses. You can just move your lens over from one to the other.
Right. We've got a 28-1.4 on here. We've got a 16-35 zoom on here. You know, you can swap them back and forth, whatever Nikkor lens you have or third-party f-mount lens.
It looks like we've got some questions already, actually.
Can you run down the specs for video?
Sure. It's 4K at 30, 25 or 24 frames per second, 1080p at, I believe, up to 60. You can also do 4K or 8K time-lapse because you're just taking stills and combining them into a video, so the time-lapse can be super high resolution. The video, one thing, it is still contrast-based autofocus system on video, so if you're an autofocus video shooter, most pros are still manual focus for video. Not a big deal if that's what you're doing. But if you're, say, a run and gun documentary type guy, kind of doing a cinema direct Maisels Brothers style thing, you know, you're going to maybe miss autofocus in video. It's there. It's just not as smooth or as quick as something with face detection for video.
Okay. Now, what were you about to say before we took the question there?
That was what I was about to say.
Okay.
Autofocus.
Okay. Now, one thing now, because I am, you know, I am perfectly good at interviewing Jim, but I'm not a camera guy myself. So one thing that surprised me was looking in here into the side. Okay, and we see there is both a standard SD card slot,
UHS 2 speed supported,
but also this interesting form of flash memory that I'm not altogether familiar with. What is XQD?
XQD is a format, was Sony and Lexar making the cards. Lexar is now, we don't know what's going on with Lexar. They're getting acquired by the brand's being acquired.
They're Micron.
Micron killed the Lexar brand and selling it to some other Chinese flash manufacturer.
Okay.
So I don't know if it might just be Sony behind the format now, as we speak, but it's a faster, more compact form of memory. It's designed to replace compact flash.
Okay.
Compact flash has been around forever and ever and ever and ever. You used to buy point and shoots with compact flash.
I used to review handhelds that had compact flash slots.
Yeah.
PDAs.
Yeah. So it's an aging format. The speeds have increased over time. The buses have increased. There are some problems inherent in compact flash. Bent pins is always a concern. I see so many people sending their cameras in for service because they bent the pin on the reader inside. Nikon has made it clear that they're an XQD company. They did release a CF version of the D5 with 2 CF slots, but they also released one with 2 XQD slots. Canon's confusing. Canon with the 1DX Mark II put in 1 CF slot and 1 CFast slot, which is similar in form factor but doesn't have the pin issue and uses a faster PCIe bus. But in the 5D Mark IV, which is the closest camera on this on the Canon side, they went with CF still and SD. So
looks like we have another question from the crowd.
Why is the company called Nikon?
I don't know. But it is their 100th anniversary, so I probably should know that.
Yeah, I mean the origins of the names of some of these companies can be interesting. I mean, I mean sometimes, like, isn't Sony from like Sunny Boy or something?
I'm not sure. I know the one I know offhand is Leica is Light's camera. You know,
right.
It was Ernst Lights. Nikon, Sony, it's Canon.
Samsung is Korean for 3 stars.
Pentax comes from the Pentaprism.
Ooh, okay.
But that was originally sold in America under the Honeywell brand, which is just confusing.
LG was a merger of 2 companies called Lucky and Gold Star. And so for a while it was Lucky Gold Star, and then they realized that sounded kind of chintzy, and so they just kind of KFC'd themselves into LG.
Okay, so
yeah.
Wikipedia will tell you why Nikon is called Nikon. I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Okay. But so you were talking about, of course, the other sumo wrestler in the room, which is Canon.
Yeah.
And how does this compare to what Canon is currently offering at the price point?
At the price point, the Canon option is the 5D Mark IV, which went with a 30 megapixel full frame sensor, so not as much resolution, but Canon does have on sensor phase detection. So its video implementation is, and live view photography is going to give you smoother racks of focus and adjustments. However, Canon uses motion JPEG for video, so its file sizes are huge.
Yeah.
They're huge. You can pull out an 8 megapixel JPEG out of any video frame, which is awesome, but the file sizes are real, real big. But if you're looking at this as like a pro rig, it's got a 3.5 millimeter mic jack as well as a headphone jack for monitoring. It doesn't support XLR. For 4K video.
Wait, this one, not the Canon.
Same, both of them.
Okay,
both
okay,
of them
both
have
of them.
that.
Okay.
Sony has some solutions in both in the mirrorless and in its SLT space, which is the fixed lens all-time phase detection off the sensor focus, the A99 II, that will put an XLR adapter in the hot shoe. And those are probably better choices for people who are primarily video shooters more than still shooters.
Yeah, we get a lot of questions about video on this stream, and it's
Yeah.
interesting that we get a lot of people asking about video. I guess the dedicated camcorder world is, I would say, pretty much dead, except for the fact that we are currently being live streamed using a dedicated camcorder.
Yeah, and there are some still in the $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 range, and way up for Hollywood production.
Right, pro video.
Yeah,
cameras,
Sony
basically.
just announced some ridiculous 6K full frame cinema camera, called the Venus, I think, that is supposed to be. I don't know if that name's correct. It's just Venice. It's the Venice. Sorry, it came out this week that the cinema world is going crazy over, but that's not consumer. That's crazy expensive.
So now this is one notch up from what you generally recommend for the general purpose enthusiast, though, right?
Oh yeah. If someone's just an enthusiast, they can look at, if they really like sports and wildlife, they can look at a crop sensor camera with really fast shooting, like the D500 or Canon 7D Mark II or Fujifilm's mirrorless X-T2. But this is something, it's a full frame sensor. It's a pretty fast burst rate at 7 frames per second. When you consider the resolution, you can go to 9 with the grip. Some other fit and finish changes we should talk about, some of which relate to video and or stills. New guy here is a tilting touchscreen display.
Nice.
So you can, if you're in live view mode, you can tap to focus and take a shot, or just set it to sorry, there's 3 options there. So one to focus and take a shot, one just to focus, which is the one I usually like, and one just to disable the tap setting at all when in live view. You can navigate all the menus through the touch screen if you want to. These buttons along the side here are now backlit. So if you're an astrophotographer, that's great. You're out in the middle of the night, you're not fiddling for a flashlight, those buttons just light up.
But also, yeah, it's great to have and I noticed that the previous model doesn't have the tilting display.
No,
and
it's an old school fixed LCD.
And of course, the tilting display means you can shoot from the hip.
Yeah, and if you're on a tripod and you want to get it real down real low, you don't have to get down on your knees and get knee pads and when you're shooting flowers, macros, and things. The viewfinder, one of the things about losing the flash, the viewfinder is larger.
Okay.
A larger viewfinder, it is noticeably larger to the eye. I think it's a 0.75x versus a 0.7x magnification.
I was looking through the viewfinder on this and really enjoying it. Yeah.
This has got Nikon SnapBridge, which is the Bluetooth NFC Wi-Fi concoction they've got together, cocktail. So it does a Bluetooth connection with the phone to keep the connection alive. We'll add GPS data and set the clock on the camera so it's right all the time.
And then Wi-Fi's over and then Wi-Fi's the images over.
It Bluetooths the images over.
Bluetooths the images over. What's the Wi-Fi for?
If you push the images from the camera to the phone, it does Bluetooth. If you go into the phone and browse the camera manually and pull them, you can go Wi-Fi, which is faster. Okay. But the idea is seamless backward transfers. You don't have to go into the app; it just does it as long as it's running in the background. Wi-Fi is for remote control as well.
Okay.
So you do need to establish the Wi-Fi connection to get the live view feed and remote control with your phone or tablet.
Looks like we have another question.
How heavy is it?
Oh, I have to look at depth of review, but 2 pounds.
Light.
Body's 2 pounds-ish, 2.5
light.
pounds. It's about the same weight as standard full-frame SLR. And then the lens adds another pound or 3 pounds or 7 pounds, depending on how big a lens you have.
Yeah. Another question?
How fast is the autofocus?
Real fast. I mean, I've used it sitting at my desk. It's the same autofocus system as the D5, which is the flagship 153-point widespread autofocus system that Nikon introduced a couple years ago. And again, having not tested this in the field, what I will say is if this behaves like the autofocus system, the same autofocus system that's in the D5 and the D500, it's going to be real speedy.
So what is our editor's choice in this category right now? Obviously, we can't say right now,
Right
what
now,
this is going to be rated.
Right
but-
now, it's the Canon 5D Mark IV,
Okay,
which we
okay.
reviewed last year. Before that, this was also an editor's choice winner for. This held it for 2 years, I think. We reviewed this in August 2014, and it wasn't until I want to say I did the review of the 5D Mark IV last September, October. So it's September, October 16 that it was ousted.
And this is going to be one of the longer, more complicated reviews. So, any idea when this will be done, or will it just be done when it's done?
Well, I'm devoting all next week to this camera. I'm going to be
Okay.
traveling with it. I'm going to be shooting with it full 2 or 3 days. I'm doing the lab tests today. I would like to have it up the week after I get back. Maybe in that Monday or Tuesday. So, a week, 10 days, 10, 12 days from now, I'm hoping just to devote all my time to it.
Great. So we have a preview of the Nikon D850 up on PC Mag right now, where you can get all of the details, the specs, the basic body price at $3,300.
Yeah, the preview also goes into extensive detail about all the differences between the D810 and the D850 from a control standpoint and tech standpoint. So if you use this camera for a long time, you have an idea of what this does.
We'll have a full review up within a couple of weeks. It's going to be one of Jim's great flagship camera reviews. Any more questions out there?
It's going to be real long. It's going to be
real-
real long.
Yeah, but people like that.
I hope so.
Okay, so thank you, everybody. Thanks a lot for watching One Cool Thing from the PC Mag Labs. Today was actually Friday, so we will see you on Monday. It's going to be a heck of a week next week, so stick with us. We'll see you then.